Shall I go ahead? Okay, we're going to reconvene to open session at 6 o'clock. And real quick, I'd like to welcome Lillian Bailey, our new student rep. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And we have a report of final action in closed session.
All right. For action, or for item 2.1, it was moved by Trustee Paoli and seconded by Trustee Mattson, and passed by a vote of 5-0 to approve an employee request for a leave of absence. In item 2.2, it was moved by Trustee Babcock and seconded by Trustee Paoli, passed by a vote of 5-0 to approve the stipulated expulsion agreement for student 23-05, and no other action was taken during closed session.
Okay, thank you. And unless there's anything we need to move, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And do we have public comment on non-agenda items?
No, there's no public comment.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and read this now, get it behind us. For in-person disclosures, individuals may address the board on agenda and non-agenda items during public comment and/or at the time they are under consideration by completing the speaker form provided on the table at the entrance and submitting to Renee Holes, our administrative assistant. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual. Speakers will be chosen in random order. A timer will be set for 3 minutes. If you do not complete your comment when the timer rings, you may leave a written comment for the board's information. Each person may only speak once per agenda topic and is required to address the board from the podium. A total of 20 minutes public comments per topic will be allowed. In exceptional circumstances, the board may consider adjusting the amount of time allowed for public comment. Public comment cannot be acted upon or discussed by the board in accordance with the Brown Act. The board may request staff to respond orally at the meeting or at a future time. If you require translation service, please contact Renee Holes at the district office 72 hours in advance by phone or email. Regular meetings will be videoed and broadcasted on the FBUSD YouTube channel. Members of the public who wish to address the board may also submit public comments prior to the start of the meeting by emailing boardmeeting@fbusd.us. Staff will make all attempts to share and record any submissions received prior to or during the board meeting. However, depending on timing, late submissions may be provided to the board after the conclusion of the meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes each, approximately 390 words. And if we do get a virtual comment, we have this extra. The following public comment was received by the district using the public comment email address. For ease of public participation, it will be read into the record by a district employee. This should not be construed as an endorsement of this comment by the district or as the position of the district. Moving on, patriotic exercise with Trustee Babcock.
So I'm going to read a short press release from the census.gov, and then we're going to follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. So on September 11, 2001, ordinary Americans performed extraordinary acts of heroism. Firefighters and police officers rushed into crumbling buildings and raging fires to save others. EMTs, construction workers, colleagues, and strangers tended to the wounded. Passengers and crew members gave their lives to thwart another attack. And a generation of women and men answered the call of duty by joining our armed forces to defend our freedom and our democracy. These patriots, people of undaunted courage, uncommon resolve, and unwavering perseverance, are forever ingrained in our national character. They are reminders that we are a great country because we are a good people. On this Patriot Day and National Day of Service and Remembrance, we pay tribute to the heroes and victims who lost their lives on September 11th, and we recommit ourselves to the spirit of unity, patriotism, and service that carried our nation through the days that followed. And that's in honor of Patriot Day this month, and then I will ask that we do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, Trustee Babcock. And moving on to acknowledgements. 5.1, pursuant to California Department of Education recommendation, the board recognizes the following.
So, September is National Hispanic Heritage Month. That actually starts tomorrow. National School Success Month. Try to get everybody off to a good start. And Library Card Sign-Up Month. So if you don't have a library card, make Renee happy and go out and get one. We also have International Literacy Day that was celebrated last Friday, and then Patriot Day that was celebrated on Monday. There were no donations made to the district this month.
Okay, thank you. And for communication, I know we all received emails from Marcia Douglas regarding the science of reading. Was there any others? Were there any others?
We did receive yesterday the letter from MCOE approving our LCAP and budget for 23-24.
Oh,
So
great.
it was nice to get that confirmed.
Okay, thank you. I'll write that down real quick. Okay. Moving on to public comment on agenda items.
We have a whole group here.
Oh.
A little more than 3 minutes, but 6 of them, so about 3.5 minutes.
That's awesome. Please approach the podium. I think we can go ahead. They're on the agenda for this, so I think that's perfect. Exactly.
So I'm not going to do much of the speaking. I just want to introduce these folks. This is the, 6 of the 7 Noyo High School leadership team, Student Leadership Council. Unfortunately, the 7th had to be out of town today, and so wasn't able to make it, but they are stepping up to cover for him. We have Damien, we have Vanessa, we have Kimmy, we have Andy, we have Audrey, and Darren. And they're going to talk to you a little bit about the agenda item that's coming up later regarding possible travel to an out-of-state conference.
Thank you.
Good evening, trustees. Thank you for allowing us to be here today and talk about us asking to go to the Big Picture Leadership Conference. We are the student leadership team of Noyo, and our goal is to represent the views and needs of the students. The goal of leadership is to work alongside to improve the way the school runs and ensure all voices are heard and all needs are met. Despite its size, Noyo is a very diverse community, and we each represent a group of the student body.
The Student Leadership Council is in the early stages of development. As a team, we have been working on building our voices as advocates so we can better serve our classmates. Going forward, we will begin working directly with the staff of Noyo to address student concerns and help our program develop and provide the highest level education possible. We believe that the opportunity to attend this conference will support our work by allowing us to connect with other school leaders. It will help us develop professional skills such as listening, collaborating, and advocating, and it also gives us new ideas and information that we can bring back to school. Additionally, it will allow us to experience an entirely new culture.
As you know, over the past 3 years, our school has gone through a lot of changes since we transitioned to a big picture school, and since the beginning, it's been a school goal to have our students take on more responsibility for like raising the bar and overachieving compared to what was thought of us before. We want to make it, I forgot the word. A lot of progress has been made since we've changed from a packet-based school, and a few examples of what has been happening lately are students are working in the community at internships actively. We see students leave every Tuesday and Thursday. I personally am one of them, and we go out and we each have our own interests and we connect with people. We're encouraged to. We do cold calls and all that. It's really good. Local business leaders came and took part in an interview day, and our basketball team competed in a tournament at the Sacramento Kings Stadium, as well as student murals are going on display. We have one in the cafe, and we had one up by Purity. It was like a stitch-through thing. That looked pretty cool. And students are learning skills that they'll need for when they enter the workforce after graduation. which I think is pretty important. So.
But while the school has made a lot of progress, especially in terms of being student-centered, there's still a lot to achieve. Our new student council is vital to the full realization of our vision, and to be truly successful, we need to be given the opportunity to develop a better understanding of how effective leadership teams operate and to learn about what goes into running a school.
At the Leadership Conference, we will be attending a variety of workshops focused on developing educational programs rooted within the big picture philosophy. As student leaders, we will be active participants alongside teachers, counselors, principals, superintendents, and other school leaders around the world.
I believe this experience will not only teach us vital skills, but also build the confidence so that moving forward, we can work with the staff at Noyo to represent the needs of our peers. We understand that 7 students might feel a lot, but Noyo is an extremely diverse group of students, and we feel like the leader board should reflect that, or council board should reflect that.
We realize we're asking for a significant sum of money to support this. However, we believe it is a sound investment for the continuing development of Noyo. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak this evening, and we are proud of what we've achieved and excited we are happy so far. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Are you all seniors?
We are not all seniors. We're all from Oh,
awesome.
Yeah.
So a diverse group.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And did you hold an election or volunteer?
It was one volunteered from each class,
Mhm.
I guess, but there was a couple more from one class. So.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, thank you so very much for coming in and showing us your dedication to your school and pursuing, well,
Yes.
greater things.
I'm gonna drop the kids off home, but if you want me to come back for when it gets to the agenda item, if you have other questions, I'm happy to come back and
Would you like to come back?
I-
We always love to hear from you, Gary.
If you got any questions, I'm happy to be here, otherwise I'll go home.
I'll defer to Joe.
I think it should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
so
I
yes.
think we're, yeah,
I'll stay as well.
thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you so much, and
Thank
thank
you
you
all.
Thank you.
again.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you very much for coming.
Somebody left their backpack.
Oh, a backpack up front.
And there's a purse right there.
Oh, and a purse.
I'm so nervous.
I know, they're so nervous.
Out. Oh.
That was great.
Very nice job.
They really did.
Good idea.
Okay, we'll move on to reports. We'll start with Lillian Bailey, our new student rep, with the reports from our schools.
All right. So mostly we've been going over homecoming stuff as that is coming up, and we are making new adjustments to it. So we're doing fundraising for classes. We're trying to decide how we want to do the fundraising this year and who will get the money from homecoming. The Interact Club has been taking extra steps to really get people involved in our school. We recently did the quad painting, and we are hoping to do more to get more people involved and just really into just everything. And then aside from that, just been starting off school with a lot of clubs, like intramural has been happening at lunch, and we're doing everything from ASB and Link Crew to get everyone involved, especially the freshmen. We have a really great group of freshmen this year, and I'm one of the Link Crew members, and I have found that they're super nice, and I think this school year is going to be really great with them.
Great. When is homecoming?
It's going to be at the end of October this year because none of the games fit, so it's going to be an
Oh.
interesting homecoming with not all home games.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah.
It's different.
It's very different.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to 8.2, General Obligation Bond Funds Construction Project Update.
All right, Joe, Don, can you hear us? Okay.
We can't hear you.
Are you on mute? I think he's still on mute. No?
No,
We
it's-
can't hear you.
All right, let's see.
Is the volume all the way up?
Yeah, let me adjust my volume. There we go. How about now?
Okay.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Yes.
So just to let the board know, I cannot project the PowerPoint along with him on the screen.
Okay.
So if you want to follow, I know Don's going to follow his PowerPoint, which is linked, which is also in your folder. So let everybody get organized here.
Okay. I'll open it up on another screen here so I can walk through.
Okay.
Renee, could you put the subtitles on?
Yes. Yes, I will.
Oops, sorry, I'm having trouble finding it.
Do you want me to put it in the chat? Do you want me to?
No, I just, I'll have it there in a second, sorry. Here we go. Okay. If you go, the first page is the financial summary for phase one. There's really not much to speak of there. We're on budget, and despite us having to make that $65,000 there, that's basically because we get reimbursed from PG in the far future. But we are on budget, and there are really no financial issues to really speak of. Why don't we go to the second slide, with the overall project status. If you're there, the boiler commissioning is underway. The boiler commissioning basically is just getting it up and going and working to its proper specs. That's occurring this week. Probably started last week actually, but it's occurring the first part of this week. And getting it balanced. The bus loop, as you can see as you approach the school, is completed. With the exception of there's some existing fencing that needs to be removed in the front, and there's some new fencing that needs to be installed a little bit back from the street beyond the bus drop-off areas. And the contractor is currently got some gates in for powder coating. Once that happens, they'll come on site and put the gates, put the fencing and the gate in for the bus loop. And then probably the most activity we've had the last 3 weeks or a month since I last spoke with you is kind of the tangential project, the Windows project, which is not actually the bond project. They've got about 30 windows delivered. They've got, I think, about 15 of them installed. And there's a schedule to work around the school to get the remaining ones in hand installed. I think there's a little bit of hiatus, and then first week of October they'll be back. And then the remaining wing that's not installed yet will occur next summer because those windows won't arrive for a few more weeks, if not a month. And we don't want to do the work during school. They are going to take an opportunity to do some door installation for the kindergarten bathrooms and other areas over Thanksgiving break. So kind of working around the edges and not trying to disrupt the school and get the last little bits of that window project going until they can do the last leg of it next summer. When we go to the next slide, you see a picture, as you haven't probably seen it, probably is the bus turnaround. And then the next slide is a financial summary of phase two. The real only expenditures of any great extent is with the architect. They're in design right now, kind of transitioning from schematic to design development, and then to construction documents. They have a goal to have the project into DSA by December 1st, and it looks like they're so far meeting that goal. We as a district, and finally yesterday, I think I was got the soils report that was required to be updated from our consulting Geotech to the architect. So they're perusing that right now. So as far as phase 2, it's progressing as planned. No big shakes or issues on that front. And I think that's the last slide I have. I'm wide open for questions.
Do we have any questions?
So the last 2 classrooms will start hopefully in June of next year? Or are you gonna
Yeah, so windows will be in plenty of time for that. We just don't want to be opening up classrooms in the winter time to do the work and duck and dodge around the process. So it just makes more sense to put them aside until next year.
So we have another good-sized construction project on that site, don't we? More classrooms?
Yes,
And those will start in June as well?
yes.
Right.
So,
He said about windows, so I'm not sure you heard me, so. Okay, thanks, Don.
Okay.
All right, well, thank you. And thank you for indulging me to be off site today.
Are there any other questions?
Are there any more questions before we let Dawn go?
Well, the only thing I was curious is if students and staff, everything's going well inside, there's no complaints?
no complaints.
Things aren't in the wrong spot?
Nope.
Nothing's leaking?
And in the rooms that are completed, if you look at the top of the 30 wing, that's probably the best view of what it looks like with all the siding. The siding will get painted, but I kind of like it as just the bare redwood, honestly. I think it looks very nice as it is. So,
Maybe a stain instead of paint.
perhaps,
Maybe.
yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dawn.
All right, well, thank you very much. I'll see you next week.
Okay, thanks, Don.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Don.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, and we'll move on to Fort Bragg High School campus highlights and back to school.
Excuse me, President Makala, I think our student rep would like to say thank you.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I should have said,
She has to go
thank
get
you so
pictures.
much.
Go make ice
Thank
cream.
you so much, guys.
We'll see you next month.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a little video here to show you.
No subtitles.
So that was the link crew at Lillian. Starting over, I think.
Sorry.
So, like I said, that's how all of our freshmen got introduced to school. It's a great experience. So, Kevin Ozar, who Boomerang Project, he trained our link crew leaders, as Lillian said. That was one of the things that she's in. So that's how all of our freshmen come through, and they get the little welcoming by our staff and by the link crew leaders. So it's a great way to be introduced to the high school. Some of the other things that we've been doing, we've had a whole school barbecue. I think Lillian said she got my thunder. We had a great barbecue and a club fair in the quad. And thank you, the fire department, who they came and sprayed the quad down so that Rotary could paint in with the leaders. of Interact to go help paint the quad, because it gets pretty bright with all the concrete in there if you've been in there, and it dulls it down a little bit so it's not so bright when you walk through there. Our hallways right now are currently decorated for Hispanic Heritage Month, so it's been nice to have some color in our hallways, because they are kind of get boring at times, but trying to make it look better, and we're trying to do it like a once a month something in our hallways to whatever month it is, to have some decorations in there. What else? Other than that, things are in full. We had sports are in full gear. Intramurals are going. We had a nice little volleyball game at lunchtime. It was a heated one today. Went down to the wire. It was 26-24. FFA received quite a few awards over in Ukiah at the fair, and then next week they're going to Anderson Valley, so hopefully we get a few more there. And other than that, sending trips off, we had a full busload of 50-something students, I think about 45 students. They went to Cal Poly Humboldt, and I think they were going to visit College Roads a little bit today too. And then 2 weeks they go to Mendo College, and then after that all of our freshmen, and we're sending 2 buses to the Mendo College here. So we're getting students off campus to see what else is out there. All right.
So what is the date of homecoming?
I'll have to look on my,
Okay.
I think it's the Friday the 20th. Let me check on my phone here.
Okay.
The reason why is, I think it's the 29th?
Of September.
Oh, right, down at the end.
Yeah, it's, I'll have to go look.
27th.
27th, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the reason why is, you know, we only have a few home games. One landed on the break, so of course no one will be there. And then a few of them the other one was too soon. It was like, you know, last week. So then all the stuff getting kids in the school, the swing of school, and then you're taking away with homecoming activities. So fingers are crossed that the weather is dry, but we'll make do with it no matter what.
All righty. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, and 8.3.2, district-wide update.
So still adding things on, writing down that I didn't add on to the presentation, but first off, over Labor Day weekend, I had the pleasure of getting to help out with the parade and get to see many of our students kind of coming through. That was just lovely to see everybody coming through. I was doing some traffic control at the start end point, so if you see any pictures of a really bright orange t-shirt out there directing traffic, that was me. I also got a chance to stop by. The Winos crew did the fundraiser to help support art and music programs in our community. So that happened the Saturday of Labor Day weekend as well. So I still don't know from them exactly what they raised, but they said it was a little more slim this year than what they've had in the past, but that they had garnered some donations of instruments again and that sort of thing. So, and I was happy to be able to report to them that their fundraising efforts of last year went to buy some clarinets and trumpets this year with our really, really large beginner band program that we've got going on. So they were very happy to hear that. Currently, we have a district enrollment of 1684. Our students seem to have been very happy returning to campus, and things have gone pretty smoothly. As far as instruction is concerned, we had our Williams compliance visit from MCOE. We're working through some of the logistics there to ensure that we're found compliant. Mostly in that we're still piloting for science, but what we're thinking is that our benchmark advance, our reading curriculum, actually covers a lot of the science standards. So I'll probably be bringing something back to you next month that asks to approve that for 1 year only as our science curriculum. Then we'll be compliant and everything will move forward. We also want to add an ancillary of the mystery science program, which kind of fills in any of the gaps that and it's very hands-on and videos, and it's pretty engaging for kiddos that way. Let's see, our district leaders participated yesterday in the second training supporting equity for our students. Our whole ADCO team will participate in 2 more sessions this year, one in November, and I think the following one is in January or February. Our principals will participate in an additional 4 sessions that are geared specifically towards principals and bringing equity into schools. The next of those will start in October. Our Board of Trustees will participate in 4 sessions starting October 21st. We'll also start a community of practice with teachers and an equity committee with our community members later this year. In facilities, we held our ribbon cutting ceremony just a little while ago. Thank you for all of you for attending. We talked about the remaining windows at Redwood that'll be installed, and I heard a little more specifically the weekend before October break and during October break. So they're going to actually come in that Wednesday afternoon and then work through the rest of the week and into the weekend if they need to get things done. And we're working on options or to refurbish some parts of the Redwood playground. So we're getting some new swing, the physical equipment of the swings, not the actual bars, to replace those because they're just kind of getting old and rusted, new chains, that sort of thing. We're actually going to buy some the mats that they use in horse stalls to go underneath them so that whenever it gets muddy, that it's not just a mud pit. And we said the kids aren't going to be able to pick those up and move them. They're pretty hefty. And we looked at the equivalent, which was basically the same thing through a company selling school supply equipment, and obviously they wanted 3 times as much. And we said, no, we know some people. So we're moving forward with that, and we're also looking at doing some of the borders at Redwood and Dana Gray, kind of redoing that border that's there because the wood is breaking down and can be a hazard in some areas. So on the fiscal side of things, we have been awarded 2 grants. One is the College and Career Access Pathway Grant, and that will be $100,000 spread over 2 years. So one award of $100,000 that we can spend over 2 years. The other one is the Community Engagement Initiative Grant, and Kristen has helped us procure that. It was a rigorous process of writing a letter. Yes, we were kind of surprised because it was supposed to be a letter of interest in an application. And then we're getting information that we got the grant, and we said, well, okay, but we thought we'd have to do more. And that gives us $70,000 per year for 2 years. So we get a total of $140,000 out of that. And the really cool part with this is we can use the majority of it to have kind of some no strings attached support for community organizations that are supporting our kids. So we can do some mini grants out to them. To really help build a community as we move forward to apply for the community schools grant. So we can kind of build some of those relationships, maybe try out a very limited scope of a program that we might be able to expand as we make that application. A big thank you to Wendy for working through some of the system glitches that were in place to get our accurate unaudited actuals report. There were some challenges there. Not with the report, but with the system getting everything in.
Hence the 2 laptops.
Yes. And the city has also contacted us about 2 different opportunities. So I don't know if you've seen, I believe there was some information that went out yesterday about the Noyo Harbor Blue Economy Grant Plan. And so with that, they reached out to us and we said we would love to be able to start some pathway of some sort that helps students work into what their bigger plans are as they move toward the college and that sort of thing. So we wrote in, our part is actually very small compared to some of the big things they want to do out at the college and just in the harbor itself, but our part would be with an instructor who could work with students through a pathway. Hopefully, I want K-12 because I think we start very early. We're here, take advantage of our location and really encourage kids to be a part of that. The other piece is, and I didn't finish typing this, phone must have rang, sorry. There is a community resiliency grant that they're applying for. So, and they have asked us what we would like. We said it would be lovely to be able to have some generators that could run our cafeterias in the event of an emergency so that we could continue to feed people, as will be the centers if there are, say, a tsunami or an earthquake or something to that level. So. And they're having that meeting right now, so couldn't necessarily be a part of the input meeting there, but Their hope is to be able to get a grant to turn the Veterans Hall into an emergency operations center. So it would still be able to function as Veterans Hall, but would also have carts that come out in an emergency, and they would have a center that they could work from that's not the police department, that's not the school site or something like that. So
That's great.
we could use these for their intended purposes. And then finally, some good news. I'm sure you've all been past Dana Gray, and if you have, you've noticed that there are always people, I think, from pretty much sun up to sundown, and even some past when we've had football games and things. But the new playground is a smashing success. We've had lots of kiddos out there having fun. And even our middle school and high school students who don't want to admit that they're out there having fun are out there playing on the equipment as well. So
Maybe a parent or two.
I would imagine so. I haven't caught them in the act, but I'm sure that they're out having fun. So thank you very much for your support of that. That's been huge, especially right now while Wiggly Giggly is undergoing renovations. It's been the place in town to come play.
What are the rules around that?
So we're working on that, and Jamie and I have been talking about, we need to actually get some printed rules out there, like posted out there, so that we can have something to enforce. Right now, there's no way for us to secure that part of campus, so it's really hard to say there's a hard closure at a specific time. We would prefer folks not be there after sundown, just there's not good lighting there either. And we also need to post that our after-school program uses the playground until 6 o'clock. So we would like to reserve it for that purpose up until that point, as it was the extended learning opportunity program grant funds that paid for the structure itself.
As far as like liability?
So our liability, we meet the standards. There's the depth of chips that need to be there. We're going to distribute some more chips over the break, knowing that they'll compress a little bit. But we have no liability. It's a compliant structure that everything's been done correctly on.
So if a member of the public on a Saturday is in there and breaks a leg,
Then they're coming in at their own risk. And yes,
You haven't invited them.
we have not. So, but we're happy to have them, and glad to see that the public is enjoying this as well. So it has been a really strong spot of, I think, bringing the community together in a way that's kind of cool, that we haven't seen as much of since COVID's been around. So it has been joy. Everybody's got a smile on their face over there when they're at that thing. So,
Yeah.
because there's so much to do. So
Okay, thank you. Moving on to 8.4, California Schools Employees Association report.
okay, so I was asked to read the report tonight. Martha did send this to me. She said that CSEA held their first annual meeting yesterday for the purpose of contract orientation. Their labor rep, Nicole Frazier, was present to answer some questions for employees. And she wanted to send a big thank you to Laura Vieira for letting them use the middle school library for the meeting. They had 54 people in attendance. And Delia Ramirez won the $25 raffle for the cookie company. Their next meeting will be coming up on October 11th in this very room. She said thank you very much.
Thank you. And 8.5, Fort Bragg District Teachers Association.
I did not receive any report for them.
Okay. Alrighty. On to approval of agenda consent items. It's not down there, our blurb, but these are non-controversial items. And I'll have Vice President Schneider read those.
Sure. 9.1 warrants for August 2023, 9.2 minutes for the August 10th regular meeting, 9.3 personnel action report, 9.4 contracts, and 9.5 discretionary budgets for 23-24.
Okay, were there any questions or comments, changes?
I'm sorry, I didn't email, but it seemed there were some sites that were, the people were at different sites, or is that? Let me look at one, sorry.
Okay.
Not that it's just money in it.
Which items?
The personal action.
Oh, okay.
I did print that for you.
If nobody else noticed it, then it must have gotten fixed or something.
We did issue an updated one, was it yesterday? Yeah. So
Okay.
it's been a long,
Yes,
so,
I looked at
so
it.
I think that we corrected, there were a couple of errors that we found.
Okay.
so.
That's okay.
So is it okay to comment on an item without pulling it? Because I don't need to pull it,
You should pull it,
just to comment on it.
because you're really not supposed to talk about these,
Oh.
unless you pull it.
Okay, then I'd like to pull the personnel action report.
So I move to approve the consent item without the personnel action report.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay, moving on. Okay, on to item 10, board action
But
items.
where's the?
Yeah,
Oh.
he's got it.
Oh.
You have to,
We can discuss it at this point.
yep,
Oh,
personnel
now
action
we can
report
discuss,
now.
oh, okay, now,
Now
because
that's
I
one
see,
item.
sorry.
So I just, it's kind of alarming, the amount of money we spend in stipends. And I don't know, I appreciate your brief explanation in the email, but if you could maybe elaborate in
Certainly.
public, like how this program, not program, but, you know, where do these come up with, how are they determined? It just,
So these originate in our contract. It is a part of the, near the salary schedule, you'll see the approved stipends. The ones that are approved are, we have our leadership, which is at each site. We have 4 at Redwood, I believe 4 at Dana Gray, and then 6 each at the high school and the middle school. So that's the leadership portion of the stipends. We also have our web and link crew folks who are providing the advisor side of things for our orientation for the high school and for the middle school. And that's not just a one-time thing, that goes throughout the whole year that they're providing those supports. The other ones that we have vary, but a large portion, as we have 34 teachers who require a mentor either as having an internship permit, a PIP, a STIP, one of those types of permits. All of those require that they have a mentor. Also for any of our folks who are in the induction program, so once they get their credential, to help clear their credential, they have to participate in the induction program for 2 years, and they have to have a mentor during that time. So all of those are required under Ed Code, so there's not a lot of flexibility in offering those. The amount is negotiated, obviously, but other than that, there has to be a person providing those supports. So it's a lot, but I think it's also shows that we've got a lot going on in the district, and we're offering a lot of support to our teachers and to our students as well through these.
would you say generally the amount of the stipend correlates to the number of hours they have to put in?
That's generally where they come from. Yeah, they put a decent number of hours into each of these roles that are listed here. I would say to be a peer assistance mentor, they're meeting at least an hour a week directly with the person that they're mentoring, and then you add to that they do some other work outside. There's some required meetings that they have to attend and that sort of thing. So it's pretty rigorous, and it takes a good bit of time, but it's also in the DNA of our profession to really want to reach out and support each other as they're coming up. So.
And isn't it true that PIPs and STIPs are paid a lesser salary?
Well, they're locked until they get
They're
their
locked.
credential. So they're locked within a very narrow band on our salary schedule.
Yeah.
So when you look all the way to the left on that first schedule, they can go 1, 2, and is there a third step, or is it?
There's 3.
There's 3 steps. So,
Mhm.
and that's as far as they can progress without moving forward and getting a credential.
They're clear, okay.
So,
And how are these people approved?
how are
Like the people that receive the stipends?
so they're recruited by their principals.
Okay.
Reach out and say, I have this person and they need this. We put it out as a general, anyone can apply to be a part of it. I don't think we've ever filled all of them through application. It's always we have to kind of go out and say, hey, we've got this person. I'd really like for you to come provide the support for them. I
Okay,
think
so
you'd be
there's not any
interested.
like requirements to be a mentor? There's no.
Generally, we in our contract we want folks with who are permanent status. That doesn't always work out because sometimes there's not a person at a site who can be a permanent status, say for within that, particularly at the middle school and high school, within that subject area. So we try to get them matched with somebody who's got some expertise in their area.
Okay.
So.
Any
Thank you.
others? Okay, now we'll move on. Oh, we have to approve it. That's right, sorry. Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the personnel action report.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
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 Yes, okay. Now we're moving on to the public hearing, 10.1, Instructional Materials Fund Assurances and Adoption of Resolution.
Right. So.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, I'm blanking out. Sorry, opening that at 6:46.
Okay. Sorry.
My fault.
So this is our annual public hearing to adopt a resolution and basically certifying that we have adequate instructional materials for our students. We do indeed have adequate instructional materials, given what I was sort of prefaced in our the superintendent report earlier with the benchmark. So that means that we are sufficient. We will be working to adopt new science materials at our elementary schools as soon as we find some that are worthy of adoption. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of great stuff out there right now. So that's been the biggest issue. Our teachers have really looked at it and they've come back and they said, I mean, if we've got to adopt something, we will, but we'd really rather wait and find something that's going to meet our students' needs in a better, more efficient way. Because they know it's a very expensive adoption. Science will be more than what we'll talk about soon with the social studies by a significant amount. So.
Okay, and do we have any public comment?
No, there's no public comment.
Okay. And any questions, discussion? No? Okay, so we will close that at 6:47. And may I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the instructional materials fund assurances and adoption of resolution 2308, certification of provision of standards aligned instruction.
Thank you. And a second?
A second.
Thank you. And roll call?
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
President Makala?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you. Okay. On to item 10.2, public hearing on history, social science, instructional materials for grades K-5, and we'll open that at 6:48.
Okay, so you had a chance to preview some of those materials last time. Renee, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know that anyone came in to view the materials in person.
Not other than board members.
Okay.
Well, okay, there may have been some teachers,
Okay.
but I wasn't, that we didn't have them sign in or anything like that, so.
Yeah. So to our knowledge, it didn't
No.
generate a lot of
Not a lot of
public interest necessarily. I think the materials are a very good value for what we get, that they can be dynamic. So if they find a typo or something changes, they can change that in the printing for the following year. So it doesn't just, we're not having to go, oh, wait a minute, that's the wrong information in that section. It also, as you saw, gives a nice consumable that the students can take home and share with their families and sort of have some more conversation about what they're actually doing in schools. So I think that's a good school to home connection. And I know there was a question about the cost for the shipping. This is I guess that's technically the next thing, but it's an 8-year adoption that we're looking at, so there's a lot of shipping that's involved over that time, and that's why it's pretty significant when you think about every year shipping to every school 500 sets of materials basically. So
Do they update those as needed if things change? Yeah.
yes, they'll update them year to year. Like say if they find that a lesson's, and I think they do outreach to teachers too, if they find a lesson's not being very effective, they'll try to find a way to make it better.
Oh, good.
So they're always trying to improve their product, which is nice.
Yeah.
So, and we don't have a lot of textbooks that are going to sit unused or something, parts of the system or something like that. Doesn't have all of those features to it necessarily. Has really a pretty robust online piece, which is where a lot of our teachers like to access it and use. So.
And they seem more user-friendly than big textbooks.
Yes.
Don't engage too well.
Yeah.
Do we have other questions, comments?
So why the long commitment? Because what if we don't like it and we're committing to 8 years? Because there were some teachers thought, well, they lose it. They don't remain, I guess they don't finish. There was some complaints about having it be so consumable that,
sure.
It seemed like for students, it seemed like it was very positive, but on the teacher end, it sounded like there was definitely something that they had to manage.
I think when looking at the cost, it was not significantly more to go with an 8-year commitment versus a 5-year commitment. And we said if they love it and we want to continue doing it, the cost was only a few $1,000s more, I think. For standards. And the standards will continue to be this for a while, and then within that time period, they will probably adopt a new framework, and then there'll be some new standards that come and hit right about the time that we need to make the next adoption. The other piece is this can always be used if it becomes after, say, year 6 or something like that. If they're like, there are some better materials that have come along. This can kind of take a back seat while still being our officially adopted curriculum. They can move on and use those, and like I say, the financial investment on this one is actually pretty low for the 8-year commitment for it. So it's, I would say in a district our size, a typical 8-year adoption of a traditional textbook series would probably be more in the $200,000 range. So it's about a third of the cost.
Right.
And I think we've had books way longer than 8 years.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
that's what I was going to say. Normally, in reality, it sounds like a long time because 6 years on the board, lots have changed and lots has not changed, and so it just seems like a huge commitment to lock in. But then our district hasn't had the luxury of. It's usually a 10-year curriculum that we get to use.
And I think the current textbooks in K-5 were 2008
or longer,
or
yeah.
2009, somewhere in that range. So, 14 year.
Yeah.
So it might make us stay a little more current.
Right. Well, the fact that they're updating and we'll take input, that's great. Yeah. Any other comments? Do we have any public comment?
No, we don't.
No true objection to it. It's a very different format for staff.
Okay, we'll close the hearing at 6:54. Do I have a motion? Or may I?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the adoption of history, social science instructional materials for grades K through 5.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. And roll call, please.
Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
And Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Item 10.3, out-of-state conference attendance request.
I think our students did a much better job of speaking to that than I ever could. I'm excited that they would have the opportunity to do that, and I don't know if Kristen has anything she would like to add.
We're super excited, just having been to a big picture conference over the summer.
Can I ask you to come to the podium? Sorry.
A first time here.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to go to a Big Picture conference with Gary over the summer, and it was a really transformative experience. It was awesome. And while we were there, there were students that had been brought by other schools, and it was really remarkable the way they were able to interact and interface with the adults, which is precisely what they do. They don't take the kids and put them in a separate area. They capacity build the students alongside the adults. And just the prospect of going has really caused our kids to kind of, raise their level of professionalism. I'm very proud of them, and I think that they'll serve us well on this conference. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I just had a couple of questions. So I think Gary mentioned 7 students, but only 6 are on the request. So are there 7 students?
Oh, there should be an updated, okay.
I just want to make sure we approve everyone who is planning on going.
Yes, there should be an updated request that might not have gotten sent in, and he changed it to 7.
Okay.
And on that updated request, he also condensed rooms. The original request that you're looking at has individual kids in individual rooms. We talked around that and the expense and really kind of the unnecessariness of individual rooms. We can pair students up for the most part.
Great. And then I guess my only other comment or question is, I hope this sets a precedent for future years. I mean, I think something like this is awesome. So I guess I have 2 questions. One is, how are these kids chosen? I know they talked about leadership in the school, so.
Yeah.
And 2, this is obviously not a stipulation, more of just an interest, like some point after they get back, I'd love to hear how the experience was.
Oh, we'd love to bring them back.
Okay.
Absolutely, we'd be happy to do that. They were chosen, Gary wanted to get kids who were truly interested in being leaders, so he made a pitch during our closing. We do a Friday circle where we talk with all the kids and we send them off. He made a pitch about the leadership class, and then it was an option for them to select. Advisors assisted in kind of steering students who would be ready or truly engaged into that class, but it was not an election per se. There were some kids that were kind of handpicked because of either leadership capabilities or big growth that they've made, and also to make sure that they're covering the diversity of students that we have on campus. We have kiddos there from 8th grade through 12th, and from various backgrounds. And so although it wasn't an election, I think it was a wise way to choose kids for this. Make sure that we're getting spreading the leadership across our student population. I'm sorry, and with regard to coming back and talking to this group, I know they would be thrilled to do that.
And
Is everyone going that wants to go, as far as you know?
Yes, that's where the 7th student came in. That student was not with us at the start of the year and then joined, but it was he who was the impetus for this whole idea last year. So he wasn't with us at the very start of the year, and there were many discussions around, should we bring him back and allow him to go? It's a senior year, and it'll be a part of his capstone project.
That's great.
I was also going to say I checked the schedule, and you're actually scheduled for the ALTED update in January, so it'd be a lovely time to hear back.
Perfect.
And see how
Perfect. Yeah, I'm super excited to bring them. I think too we've had a lot of new students to the campus this year, and this is really going to help kids gel and will elevate our culture.
So do the kids, are they going to have any prep ahead of time as far as leadership skills or things like that?
Gary, so in their design lab, which is something that we do in the afternoons, he has a leadership group right now. It's his current design lab, and he may continue it. Our design labs last 6 weeks generally, but in terms of building the leadership skills and kind of mobilizing them to be able to do things, he'll be working with that group throughout the year.
Oh, great. Okay.
And on a personal note, growing up in the Philly area, if you can maybe even take an extra day and get these kids to all the historical places in Philadelphia, like there's some great tours, and what a great opportunity while they're there to maybe see some.
You should go with them.
We would love an extra day.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I have no control, but I think Philadelphia is such a historical, great place.
Yes.
Could be a tour guide.
So So I could be a tour guide.
You could go.
Anyway, I would encourage them to experience as much of that destination as
Thank you for
as
that.
relevant as you can. Yeah.
Thank you
It's
for
a
that.
great place.
Any other questions?
Well, I love that it's not all seniors, so they can
Yeah.
continue
Yes,
the
all the
energy
young
throughout. Yeah, I thought that was amazing.
Little Kimmy, isn't it?
I
The
wanted to
shortest
just say,
one.
everyone a senior there? I don't want to say, is everyone eighth graders?
You know, we have
Yeah,
at least
that's
one
awesome.
from every grade level.
Yeah, that's
That's
awesome.
great.
So I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
With eighth being the lowest.
Yeah,
And these are CSI funds, so seems
Yeah.
very appropriate.
perfect.
Are you having any parental, what are they called, chaperones?
Chaperone.
You know, we talked about that. There are one or two who are interested. I don't think it needs to be required because it's a small enough group that Gary and I think, can effectively supervise them. If parents want to go, I feel it would be at their own expense, and that could be pretty expensive. Yeah,
And it might take away a little bit from their independence and
exactly.
gaining those leadership skills.
It was remarkable to see those students at the Big Picture Conference in Kansas City in the summer. There were times when we were doing mixers and we'd walk around and we'd talk, they play music and then you stop and you talk to someone about your site or what have you. And there was one time I was talking to an amazing young educator, and then I realized it was a junior, a high school junior.
Oh, wow.
So, any other questions?
That's amazing. Anyone else? Any public comment?
Yes. As a matter of fact, we have 2 comments from Ashley Prey.
That was Andy. Andy presented today.
Okay, so the first one said, did I miss the answer to the Noyo students? Not to take you off topic, just checking. Oh, I've just got home. Oh, it's happening, never mind. Thank you for your time. And then there's one more comment. Ashley Prey again, so I'm sorry, this is Andy. Yes, I would love to have the tour. That sounds like a great opportunity. So, thank you. We have one viewer.
Andy's amazing.
Oh, that's
Those
great.
are the comments.
Okay, thank you. And if there's nothing else, may I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the out-of-state conference attendance request, amending it to 7 students, just to make sure.
I'll
Perfect,
second
thank
the
you.
motion.
Thank you. And
That's a
vote,
great thing.
please.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
And Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Great, thank you. And if you both would like to leave, Kristen, I know you have a bit of a drive. Yeah, thank you for the presentation, and those kids were amazing. I can't wait to hear about it.
Thank you so much.
You too, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, item 10.4, 2022-23 unaudited actual financial report.
Okay. We picked this one, set of information to put up, but it's the analysis of estimated actuals to unaudited actuals. The estimated actuals are the most recent numbers that you saw as part of the budget, but at that point, we're still looking at last year's budget rather than actual numbers, so that's why there's more of a shift than you might think from June 30th to June 30th. But it's just, mostly cleaning everything up, moving things that didn't happen, moving other things that did happen. And so they weren't too far off. We try as hard as we can to adjust the budget at the end of the year so that it as closely represents reality as possible. And there weren't any huge differences, mostly in some of the restricted revenues, again, where we weren't able to complete projects, and so we can't recognize that revenue until we actually use it. So it gets moved down into the next year. Next year will probably be the last year that we'll see those kinds of revenues showing up. At the end of next year, there may be a little bit carried over because we have until September 30th to spend some of them. So I think almost all of it is budgeted out for this year, but we may see some moving into the following year, but not very much, I hope. So, and as I pointed out in our letter, or the cover narrative, we're in good shape. I mean, we have managed to leverage a lot of one-time funds to do a lot of projects that we wouldn't have been able to do, which has allowed us to hold on to a lot of our unrestricted revenues moving forward. So it'll be a longer time before we have to start looking at some of the programs that we've implemented since COVID ended, and before we have to make those determinations. So we'll have a better opportunity to see how they're actually working before we might have to make some of those decisions. There was a new thing this year where we have to adjust our cash to fair market value, which sounds like a ridiculous thing, but because the county has some of everybody's money invested in very conservative, some long, some short-term things, it's been decided that school districts need to show what the values of those things are. And just as with our bonds, the values of them change depending on where you are in the cycle. So the actual fair market value, if they had to liquidate everything at June 30th, was 98.1% of the cash that everybody actually had in there. So in a couple of places, I don't know how closely you look at all of these forms. I mean, there's only, 160 some pages. There are little places where it says local revenue and it's a negative number, and those are those fair market value adjustments to cash. And most of us elected to keep them separately. We could have just dumped them into someplace else, but we decided to keep them separate so that in future years it's going to be easier to find them and adjust them and keep track of them. So that's why they're kind of sitting out there by themselves in some cases. So did you have any questions about anything in particular? I never really know what people want to hear about.
I want to thank you very much for that report. Your narrative was so concise and comprehensive. It helped immensely. And I love the comments under your notes section. Those really helped too.
Yeah.
So this is not my bailiwick for sure, so thank you so much. But anybody have any questions, comments?
The chart that has the one where it shows the percent of salaries to the whole, I wanted to ask, because I think I knew the answer, but I want the public to understand, because it's showing that we have all this.
Why it's seeming to spread out.
And that, I assume, is all these extra funds.
It's all because of all these extra.
I just want people to think, well, why aren't you paying the people?
Exactly.
Okay, so could you speak to that a little bit?
So as we work through these large revenue streams that we've had the last few years, you'll see them coming much closer together again. There were a lot of districts in the state last year, and we were one of them, who there's a threshold you have to meet as a unified district to spend 55% of your revenues on salaries and benefits, or on salaries, and we were like at 49.5 or something. But there were districts all over the state that had that problem because of all the COVID money that they were, and all the one-time money that were coming in. I forget how many districts, but there were a lot of them, to the point where the auditors just said, if your county office is okay with where you are, then we're fine with it. So those lines are going to start coming back together again as we use up the rest of these revenues. And I thought about pulling some of those out of that to show the actual ongoing revenues, but it was almost too hard to sometimes draw that line, because sometimes we think things are one time and then they say, oh, well, here's another year of it, and so and then there are some things that are ongoing, but we don't recognize them every year because of how much we use. So I just left the whole thing as the totals, but yeah, those lines will start to come back together again. Thank you for asking. I didn't need to mention that.
Yeah. Well, and I always well, I'm wondering, because back in 18, our third year out was $42,000. So, like our third year out this year, for today, or whenever you printed this, 5.3 million. So that's a lot of the supplemental concentration reserve, like that's
A lot of
included
the
in there.
supplemental concentration.
That we'll end up having to use. And then does that also include the board reserve that's
No.
in excess of 9? That doesn't include that?
No.
And is that, you say in excess of 9, does that include the legal limit?
No.
Is that, or so that's
in
really
addition to.
12?
The board required
Is-
board reserve
is
is
9
9%
plus the 3.
above
Okay,
the
3%.
3%
So we're really-
required for
which is
economic
great.
uncertainty.
Okay, so that's good. I always want to clarify that. So that's where I just worry that people think that's, because it does say available balance,
Mhm.
which I guess it technically is, but it's really, is there some negative spending? People look above.
There will be. And,
Yeah.
And again, it's kind of pushed that out, the concern for that out, another year. Last year, this past year, I was a little worried about that third year starting to really eat into things. But a lot of, again, these one-time programs that the state has come up with,
Like
kind
ELOP?
of pushed, well,
Yeah,
not
is that
even
a-
that,
that's
but
not a
there, like I said, there were 12 new categoricals this year that we're still trying to wrap our head around. But those have allowed us to continue some of these programs that we started during COVID continuing to use one-time funds for them while we evaluate the programs. And then if we get to the third year and we're still feeling strongly that these are worthwhile, then we'll start eating into that supplemental concentration reserve. But there's a lot of overlap in the intention of some of those one-time funding streams.
Any other questions? I had a brief one. I just noticed a reduction in employee benefits, and I was just wondering, is that due to fewer claims?
No, is that, for the current year?
Didn't put the page number down. Yeah, for the current year. I'm sorry.
So there's going to be a small upward adjustment to that because there were some liability accounts that I have to adjust, not significantly, but there's going to be a small adjustment to that. But some of it is the anticipated rate did not increase for 22-23. So there was that. And some of it is when we fly positions or when we authorize positions, the assumption is that people are going to take benefits, and until they come in and don't, we don't know that. So we had quite a few people on that edge that could opt in or out, and that opted out.
Okay, thank you.
So that brings up another question. So how many positions do we have in this available balance that aren't filled? Like, are we at a higher rate, mid rate, lower? Because that's part of that excess.
I think it's about the same.
Spend. So we
need speech language pathologists. We've been flying 2 of those positions for years. And the total of those is probably about 300,000 if you add all the costs in together, maybe a little less.
But then Tiny Eye would go away, right?
Then Tiny Eye would go away.
That's a chunk of money out of our.
Yeah, I don't think it's as much as 2 full-time SPLs though.
I would imagine a real person.
It should be. It
Would
should
be
cost,
much better.
it should
Yes,
cost
absolutely.
more. One,
No,
it also should
I'm not
cost-
advocating
it
for
should
it. I'm just
cost
saying
more.
that it's yeah. It would, that will offset some of that cost. Yeah. And then what else have we not been able to fill? We're always looking for
Bus mechanic, I think.
Bus mechanic is one that we constantly have.
So those numbers that's the other available balance,
Right.
is that we need to fill these, and so
Right.
it's.
Yeah, instructional assistants, we always have
Yeah.
positions open there.
Okay, thank you. And do we have any public comment?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, may I have a motion?
Anybody? I will move to approve the 2022-23 unaudited actual financial report.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And roll call, please.
Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, which did you?
Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
And Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
I can't tell you how many times I've almost done that, Jerry. Now I know what you and Howard went through in school. Okay,
That was the
item,
least of it.
what's that?
That was the least of it.
Oh, we won't go there. Okay, item 10.5, board policy and administration regulation updates. These are ones that we went over last month and with the options that we selected and the deletions. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add or questions, comments?
I think there was just, it was clarified last month, the options that were chosen for our district.
Great, may I have a motion?
I move to approve the board policy and administrative regulation updates.
Thank you, and a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, and roll call, please.
Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to information and discussion, the 11.1 academic calendar draft 2024-2025, second read.
I was gonna say, these are really tiny on the slide, so.
Yeah.
So really, the major difference between draft 1 and draft 2, draft 2 has the Juneteenth holiday being celebrated on Juneteenth, versus draft 1 has it connected to the weekend, which puts it the observed day one day later. I think from an operational standpoint, draft 2 makes a little more sense just because celebrating the holiday on the actual day sort of aligns with the other public services that they'll be using that day. And Wendy, was there any other reason to know that we had discussed it and it's late on a Thursday, so.
Yeah.
It's always the holiday or tonight, you're talking about this evening.
Yes, we're talking about both.
Yeah.
So it just made more sense, like I say, from an operational standpoint to be there. It may be that the summer school schedule, we may bring back to you and modify that slightly to have the 20th off as well, because the feedback we got was when there was that kind of, when, like this year when we had the 4th of July off, like nobody was there on the Monday. You know, the students just, everybody went out of town for a long weekend, and that's understandable. So, so that may actually be modified in the future, but at this moment, that's yet to be determined, as that is still some time off. So.
Okay, do we have any questions?
So which is staff leaning towards being the?
I would recommend draft number 2.
Mm-hmm, okay.
Do you feel like the emergency closure day is late enough in the season?
Yes, I feel like that probably hits late enough. If we needed another day, it's going to sound callous, but our second count happens in April. And so usually taking a day in March is just fine. It's also that March is the longest month with no break at all. So if we don't have to use the emergency closure day, it sure makes people feel better to have that 3-day weekend. So.
Okay. Because if we do have an emergency, then they don't get the day off, so
right.
to be clear.
Well, and in the past, if we didn't provide one, the state looked askance at that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they've said that they will not approve the Form J13A unless we've had one built in and use that before we move forward.
Right.
So.
Hopefully we won't have a winter like we did last year.
Well, and this is.
This would, so March is late enough, is what I was.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
Gotcha, looking at it that way.
But then the pipes broke and we just let it off.
Yeah. But we
As long
have
as
it
it's
built
in our calendar, I
Right.
think they don't seem to mind where it falls in the calendar, just that we're actually taking into account that can happen in the school year.
Yeah. That's exactly.
And we're just
It is, that'll be, it's good. Any other comments, questions? Discussion? Okay, we'll move on to item 11.2, FBUSD Board Bylaw Review. I guess everybody had a chance to look at that. Were there any standouts or comments?
I have a couple comments.
Okay.
Regarding bylaw 9250, I would like to offer to the board that we consider compensation for board members as allowed in Education Code 35120. I'm offering this because we haven't had anyone run for the board in a long time, and I think offering even the tiny stipend that it is will encourage more members of our community to be a part of this body. So that's one area.
And I have, sorry, I have to stand corrected. We have had people run, haven't been on your cycles.
Kathy
I've had to run, yeah, I've had to run each time. So.
Right, okay. So I'll rephrase, just to encourage more people to consider.
Understood.
That's all. I apologize for that. And the second part of that is for the board to consider considering changing the health and welfare benefits so that the district pays 100% of board members' cost.
Does anyone else care to comment?
Because I don't have the history on where it started as board members, if that's ever been different than what we have currently as a policy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just asking historical. I don't see us getting 100% paid because the staff don't get 100% paid, so that just seems an odd request.
And when I came on, we got 50% paid. So we did get a boost up there.
That's my initial comment about that. And then the compensation, if you've I pulled it, but I didn't bring it with me, and it's a nominal amount, like the city council, all the hours you put in. So I just I'm on the board for as a volunteer and as a community commitment. But I guess there's room to say that you can, is it an all or nothing? Do we know if it has to be all or nothing, or someone could say?
It says
It says that you can say.
Yeah, I mean, so if someone wanted to take it, I don't know. I don't know from the
No,
CBO.
Stay Well says it's all or nothing. It's like the entire board does it, or
Yeah,
nobody
see,
does it.
I just wouldn't feel good about taking it.
That's benefits.
No, I'm talking about the compensation, the month for a meeting, attending a
stipend.
meeting.
Oh,
Yeah, and it says in here that a board member can say that they don't want to take it.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's something to think about. I mean, I wouldn't, because it'd pay for toner, I guess, by printing something, but,
And I wonder if the paperwork to run is pretty,
daunting.
yeah. So I wonder if instead of, I don't even know how much we were talking, but maybe if that money was set aside to help people to go through that process. I mean, I don't know.
And we did.
Didn't we already do that?
Yes.
We're paying for the $500.
As part of the California
Right.
Voting Rights Act
Mhm.
issue.
Yeah.
So there's some,
So at least that's being
you're paying for
the campaign statement.
Right.
but is there still some person, did we include, like, having resources or funds set aside to?
Well, I
Have
think we were
someone
gonna,
help them, people
Right.
fill it out so that
Not just the cost of it, but the
Mhm.
well, I think
actual, it's
we're
confusing.
required, the district was required to make sure to really get it out there that there is an opening on the board and trying to advertise that. more, and then to have it not be a financial burden if they wanted to be able to file a statement, a campaign statement.
Well, I think Kathy's saying, for instance, say I'd never run before, could I come into the district office and say I want to get the paperwork, and is there someone that can walk me through this process? Is that something we do or can do?
I think we would.
We would, yeah.
I mean, I
Right.
would not turn anybody away.
Right. Well, and how does a person, because I know the city had their city clerk become a person where they could take in the paperwork if they didn't have to go to the county. So that's something to look into as well. I think it was in lieu of, like, we all have to drive to Ukiah,
Right.
take the oath, and it's a little daunting, and they're very particular on a lot of things.
Mhm.
And so maybe seeing if someone can be that authority, and then that would make it less cumbersome, because someone's like, oh, I'm not going to make the deadline, then I have to drive to Ukiah, and then, then I've got to come up with $500 to put my statement in, which that's
Right.
no longer a burden.
Talk to the city if they already have a clerk who can accept. I don't see why they,
Yeah, I don't know if, because they wouldn't know our process. It's a little bit different, but I
Is
guess
it?
it's similar.
okay. I can certainly look into it. and see.
Yeah, just to find out if,
Well, fortunately for us, we're up again, so I'll be trying to do that. So anyway, it's kind of timing, right? We'll do
Find out
the
if-
requirements that we have and see what we do have on the side of the house.
Right.
to
I don't know
avoid.
if I have a strong opinion. I personally don't want to take any more money on anything from the school district, but I don't know if it would be insmutable versus donor.
Well, if we could find out if the policy was to change, that it could be, I don't know, from the business office, if people were either that you're in or you're out kind of a thing, so you're not every month going, well, I'm going to take it this month and I'm not going to take it next month, if that's even an option. I didn't read into the ed code enough to know.
And I don't have a strong opinion either way, but to support Scott, but is that I can see us being different than the staff just because we are volunteer. So is that a common, again, our
So,
district can use every.
they can, and I just want to kind of back this up, as I did a lot of research on other districts, and there are a lot of districts where board members do get their benefits paid fully and do get compensated. I don't know if it's all or nothing for the compensation. It sounds like it's not.
Mhm.
I just want to make this as, there's $240 a month. I think we can all do without it. We don't want to take it, but I also want to make
That's
this,
compensation.
for a district our size, yeah, at least 1,000 students, between 1,000 and 10,000 students, I think it's $240 a month. Again, nothing to make or break the bank on either end, but the more appealing we can make this, the more people who are interested to also, I think at $244 a month, you're still volunteers, in my opinion, with all the time and effort.
Unless you're
this
LA
takes.
Unified, they get actual salaries.
Yeah, and they get the 5% increase every year and whatever,
It's a
but,
whole different world.
for me, it's just, I just want to make this as attractive as we can to get as many people, to run as are interested. So, I think if it is voluntary, the compensation, at least for me, that makes it more appealing, right? Because if some people don't feel comfortable, they don't have to take it. And as far as the benefit, I know these are not going to be very popular amongst this group, but I wanted to present them and at least have that chat.
Mhm.
So I know city council, I know we're not the city, but, council members are paid 100% of their benefits. All staff are not, so it's not
Mhm.
uncommon by any means.
Right.
I think they just gave themselves raises of like $20 a month. Yeah.
and would this be a topic the board would be interested in putting on our workshop on October 7th?
Absolutely.
I was going to say, I definitely wanted to go
Yeah.
back on information and discussion because we have questions, but
Let's-
definitely.
Let's put that on, yep.
9270? No, sorry. that wasn't the one.
9250.
9250, yeah, that one. And that's the October 7th?
Let's do this. Renee, remind me to never not have you staple this again. You were right. I was wrong.
Anything you say.
Okay, any other comments or questions or things to point out? Okay, we'll move on and we'll put that on our board workshop. And 11.3, recommended update, board policy 0415 equity. We agreed to keep this on as we move through the process of training and gaining knowledge. So we're having our first, remind me the date.
October 21st.
Thank you, October 21st with our trainer.
So would it be more appropriate to have it discussed at October 21st? Or is it more appropriate to be at a board meeting to kind of get an update where we are on the ethnic studies class and that implementation and meeting that deadline and things?
I would think probably at a board meeting. I mean, I would be happy to share as well as a part of my general report if we felt comfortable with that at this point. That's up to you as the board.
Well, I mean, in the future, I mean.
Sure, I will bring it back next month for you.
'Cause we're getting down to the wire, so.
As we will have some progress forward that
Awesome.
is worth reporting out at that point. So.
Okay. Moving on to board reports. Does anyone have anything to share?
I did attend Redwood Back to School. It was the only one I could attend because I do have a senior in volleyball, so I've been driving everywhere. And it was really fun to see a huge turnout, plus everything that's going on. Like, it was the first time I got to see the loop. So there's a lot of new to look at, and I got to look at part of the new building, with furniture and everything in it. So that was really exciting. And then I did spend some time last month revising, reworking the order of the handbook to be more, like the first few pages to be very informational for a new member that's coming on board, and I redlined it. And Mary and I need to meet to talk about that, and then I'm imagining that that'll be on the October 7th, so there's plenty of time to get that. And I finished my Keenans. That was very exciting. It is getting a little dreadful after 6 years because it's like the same video.
Same, exactly.
And then I did, I think everyone's paid their sunshine, but if anyone has any reimbursement for anything, I think we're good there. So.
Sure. I think I did.
You will. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That was awesome.
We're going to force the sunshine.
Okay, anyone else?
I would just like to piggyback. I did pick up my niece at Redwood, and I have to say the bus in the afternoon, and it is slick. I mean, the parents are, this was only the second week, and parents weren't super happy that they still had to park and walk, but they'll get over it. But it really is nice to have the loop, and I did hear from the bus drivers, they think it's amazing. So I'm glad we definitely moved that ahead in the construction project. And then I did happen to be in a classroom on campus at the high school and got to talk to our new assistant principal, Mr. Anderson. And it was wasn't anything, but he is super enthusiastic. And one of the things Patty told me is that he actually sits in the quad during class. He takes his laptop out with a little table, and so that he keeps kids kind of where they're supposed to be, and he'll sit out there and work. And thought that was pretty awesome. And anyway, it was just great to talk to him, and he's super jazzed and has wants to,
So is he sitting under the covered eating area so that he doesn't have a glare? Do you know where he was sitting?
No, I didn't go out and snoop. I said, I should.
Hoping someone's using it.
He could have been by the library. That's covered too.
Right, that's true. Just so you could, that's awesome.
However, he's working on his laptop, so he must be somewhere that it's anti-glare.
Yeah.
Right.
And he probably has a hat on, knowing him, so that he's not getting sunburned.
Okay, anyone else?
Other than completing my Keenans, that's all I have.
Okay.
So to a couple football games. It was fun.
Oh, good. Okay. And I went to back to school night at Dana Gray. It's the only one I was able to make, and ended up selling T-shirts for the Parents Club. It was really fun. And I have to say, before it started, I went around and was just peeking in and saying hi to teachers, and then went out to look at the playground. Packed. I almost couldn't see the equipment because there were so many kids out there. They were having a blast. So that is really great. Kathy and I did attend the AVID webinar.
Yes,
Yeah.
we did do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
So was that informative or just very, because I didn't
It wasn't
get.
for me because I taught AVID and was a district.
Yeah, it was
but-
just more about like, this is AVID and this is, you
But I
can
thought it was
talk
good for people that
resources,
had
brand
no
new.
exposure.
Because
Yeah.
I did some on demand just to see like kids actually doing some of the, what they call it, the wicker, and they had other terminology for their strategies on having them communicate during class times. That was at the elementary school level, because I haven't really seen it at that
good.
level.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's good. Yeah, it was, well, I've been getting a lot more AVID emails too and information. But yeah, for someone who, if you didn't know anything about AVID,
okay,
that would be good. And completed my Keenans. I don't know if this happened to anybody else, but I got booted out of one got an error message and had to go back 15, 20 minutes later, and 2 of my sections were
You know
gone.
what I decided, Mary? It's, they don't like Mac.
Oh.
Because I was doing it on Safari and I was out for a day. I was late because I couldn't get in for a whole day.
Oh.
And I waited till
Well,
the last
they had
weekend.
some issues also.
Oh, they
To
did?
get the
Okay, see,
system
I
down.
thought, then I copied it over and did it on Explorer or
Gotcha.
something. Anyway, I thought it was
It was
Mac
you.
issue, but
Okay.
it's always me.
Well, the fact that I finished them and I had to do them again.
Well,
I had a rough go
and
too,
since
but-
the information's not new, I do the test first, and then I just listen. So
It
that's
lets
a
you
different
know you
approach.
could go
I mean,
out
I
of
listened.
order.
Yes, you can do the test first,
And then you can just.
and you can just
Still have
listen
to
while
listen.
you're washing dishes and
Well, I do
cooking
that.
dinner.
Click it on another
Sorry
thing,
to,
so-
You just
but
have
it's kind
to-
of a challenge,
I
like,
think we could probably
Yes.
recite the
Oh, gosh.
yes.
scenarios.
So then you're like, then if you do lose that, at least you feel like, okay, it's not as
It
cumbersome.
never even occurred to me that you could go out
Yeah.
of order.
Just a little tip.
Okay, good to know for next year. All righty.
Until they start new videos, then I'll
Right.
really.
Yeah, right, and you
commit.
go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What
learn
new
something
law?
new. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so for advanced planning, is there anything anyone would want to
So
add
I'm on
to the
agenda
workshop?
setting next month, and 4 o'clock would be better, because my
Oh, okay.
time at work
Does
has
that work for you,
changed.
Joe?
I don't know, if
Oh.
it-
Is
just
that
changing it
fine?
from 3:30 to 4.
Most likely, let's see.
Or we could do a lunchtime, and if if you need to head out.
Sorry, I'm trying to find the tab that is my, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to decide now, but I'm just giving you the heads
Sure.
up that 4 or,
Which means I'm supposed to go to Three Rivers. When is that?
That is
May-
the
September
19th.
It's on here, September 19th.
Yep.
Yeah, that's,
next week should be fine, 4 o'clock.
Let's take my aunt to the fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are they still doing that virtual or no?
What's that?
I'll be in the.
Three Rivers.
oh, the
Three Rivers?
Yeah,
They're
they
doing
still have a
both.
virtual
They're doing a
component.
hybrid,
Okay.
yeah. So Renee, can you change that on our calendar to 4? Thank you.
September 19th. And then I did
Oh, no, it's Tuesday.
I did forget to ask about COVID dollars. I had $11 million in my head. No, we don't need a thorough, or I don't need a thorough, and I can always ask later, but just curious on if that really is the number that all came in, and if I know we're on task to spend it all in a timely manner, but just didn't know how much we had left, or if that even matters.
Oh, how much we have left? Or
Mhm. Yeah, like is that the total number, and then,
So there's one of the pages in the unaudited actuals, and I think I put it in the table of contents, is
Okay.
restricted balance detail.
okay, and that'll
It's
tell
in the
me.
table of contents, and it tells you which resources have balances.
Okay, awesome.
And at this point, it's really just 2 of them. Well, a couple of others have very small amounts that we've already spent down because they had to be spent by September of this year.
Right.
The major ones there, I think there are 2 of them that
Okay,
have
perfect.
any balance left
Thank you.
of any significance. And I forget what page that was on, but I think I'm pretty sure I put it on the table of contents.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. and-
So I just
okay.
had a couple topics that, from last school year, I wanted to just make sure didn't drop off.
For the board workshop, or?
No, just
No.
for future meetings.
Okay.
One was AVID and how to get that district-wide. These were just
AVID.
discussion, AVID, sorry. Kindness Week,
Yeah.
and then becoming an official Blue Zone, whatever,
Who's in school?
district or, yeah.
I did the thing that you guys sent out, and I am younger than my real age.
All right.
I was like a plus.
I've been
I was
afraid
like,
to try it.
Maybe I need to check out this Blue Zone some more Blue Zone stuff. I'll get younger.
You see the series on Netflix?
No.
The 100, I think it's called. It's not, it's like 5 half-hour segments on the Blue Zone. It's pretty
What
good.
was it,
It's
Jerry?
on Netflix.
Oh, on
The
Net,
100. It's in their top 10 right now, I think.
About Blue Zone.
right, but what is it called?
The 100, I think.
The 100?
Something like that. It's about all these people that live to be 100 years old.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's on, he said Netflix?
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
And then my last thing for this item is, I have a scheduling conflict for the December meeting. I wanted the board to see if they can consider having it 2 or 3 days earlier.
So the organizational
do that.
meeting?
We'd have to do a special, we can't change the.
Right.
Well, the only thing you could do is you
Just
could do
open and
it
close and
after,
then-
because you could continue it to, like, you could open it up and continue it, but I don't know if you can go backward, you can't really go backwards.
So Joe, I
You
thought-
can
yeah.
change a regular board meeting by action of the board at a regular board meeting.
Right. And historically, we never did that because
We
you don't want to
never.
get in the habit of utilizing that because it's not good for the public to
We were
keep like
told you
changing.
that.
Because the city council and the planning commission, they change their meetings all the time and I just, yeah, so that's the importance of that meeting. We want everyone present, so I hear your request. Because that's the whole purpose, because you have to lay out your map of your commitment.
So,
that's a no?
Well, no, it's just, trying to figure out
We've been
how
told, and
best.
Jerry says the same, we've been told we can't, so, not that I'm doubting you, but can we double check?
I can double check for you, but I'm
'Cause we
I'm
need-
100% certain that's
Okay.
that
Like a
is the.
supermajority. I mean, I just don't, like I said, I just don't want to get in the habit of.
It's supposed to be on the 15th. 14th?
14th.
14th.
Thursday, the
14th.
14th is the
Mhm.
December board meeting.
And you'd
So
like to
that
have it
particular-
on the 11th?
11th or 12th, if possible. If not.
Oh, because the next week's not full, right. Which day?
Yeah, just check back and see.
Shall we
Does that make a
put
difference?
this
Well,
on,
could we do it on the 7th, keep it on a third? I mean, I feel weird having it on a Monday or a Tuesday.
Yeah, if that works
I
for staff.
thought we had to have it
So then there's the
There
other
is.
ed code that's
So
after
we
the
might,
second
so we might,
Friday
al-
of the month.
yeah, we might, al- this might be the minimum. Potentially too, there's that other part. It has to be
It
so
could
many
be-
days, 10 days
It could be
from.
Friday the 8th, anytime after
Okay,
Friday the 8th.
okay, gotcha,
basically,
so that,
okay. So,
And normally I
It's
wouldn't
more important than
ask,
easier,
but I
I
just,
don't think I can do the 8th.
Well, the 12th, then.
well, we don't want to do the 8th, did we?
No, it just
Very
has to be
hard,
after
appointment,
the.
kind of 2:40.
the 11th?
so why don't we have to do this as an action item. Can we put it
Yeah,
on
let's
next
do it
month's
next month.
action and you can all marinate
Well,
on it?
and figure out if there are any
and
limitations.
find- Yeah,
Yep, I'll be able to bring that back.
okay, let's
And
do
I
that.
appreciate your, at least your consideration. And I wouldn't ask
course.
if it wasn't.
And like I said, if you guys want to do it on the
Important.
8th, that's fine, because it's more important that you're.
A Friday board meeting?
Yeah.
I'm not
It just
interested
has
in
to be
that.
after the.
Yeah, no, I think that,
about moving it
I'd
out?
like to do that Monday.
Not on,
Meeting
yeah.
at that day or.
There's-
Do you have any?
I think because it's
11th
elections and
or
all, we all need to be
12th?
here.
No, I was just thinking moving out a week to the 21st. I mean, school's out, but
We'll still be here.
we'll still be here.
Okay, so I'll
You
double
can-
check
yeah,
all that information
the
and make sure to bring it back.
election
but-
code,
Yeah.
and then if what the procedure is, has to be a supermajority or.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
clarify that.
Oh, for the organization?
Right.
Because there is a policy on that
Yeah,
as well. There's 3 things to check.
okay, so you'll look into that, Joe, and then we'll have it on action next month. Does anyone have anything they'd like to see on the board workshop agenda specifically?
So that was my question, like, what do we need to prepare? I wanna make sure.
I haven't put it together yet.
All
I
right.
wanted to hear from everybody, and I asked it in email, now I'm gonna ask in person, and then we'll get that out there. Certainly the
Normally-
governance
Yeah, normally it's the governance handbook.
handbook, yep.
Usually we can review the self-evaluation tool, which I don't know if that needs to be tweaked at all. We kind of did that. Discuss professional development, community relations, advocacy. Annual state of the district may be provided by the superintendent. And maybe review the action calendar, board action calendar.
And I think we ought to look at our priorities for the year. We haven't done that for quite a while.
Priorities and then mission and
Uh-huh.
vision. Vision,
Yep.
mission. And that's
And
about all.
we did see in our bylaws that we were supposed to involve our community in our mission and vision, which I don't feel like we did that, unless I'm forgetting.
Well, we did it during COVID.
Right.
We did,
Oh, right.
we had a lot of discussion about it, and it
Right.
was getting to the admin staff, but
Mhm.
during that period of time in our life, there wasn't a whole lot of outreaching that
Right.
was effective. I mean, I think there was opportunity, but during COVID, 'cause it was early, and I think it was pretty early.
So we met in
Because we had
person.
time, like we had. there
But we
wasn't
met
the-
in person when we did
Oh,
that,
yeah, we did.
So maybe we could discuss a different way to do it, so we can start updating that, especially since we're doing our equity work.
Mhm.
So we could include that.
But should we wait till the equity statement's done?
I don't think we should start the process. I want to talk about the process.
Okay.
So that we can get it rolling when
Like
it's.
how to
when
get
the time's
community
done.
outreach and
Mhm.
what that looks like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, and we all, of course, know our schools and what's coming up, and we can check off the ribbon cutting ceremony.
Yay.
That was exciting. So, may I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
And a second?
A second.
And all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and